What's up? Welcome back to the channel. Quick review here of some new tires and inserts for my RC4wd Defender D90. I wanted to run the biggest tires that I could fit on this truck, mainly for ground clearance, right? So this truck comes with, I think, like 100 mil tires. The ones that were on here when I got the truck were even smaller. They were some older RC4wd mudslingers. Really not much clearance under the axles, was getting hung up quite a bit. For the past few tests, few runs, I've been running it like this with these, which I think look really great. These are just like off Amazon, a KLR copy, class 1, 4.19. These measure about 106 millimeters. They're fairly narrow, which I kind of like. They do fit the look really nicely. So maybe 33, 34 mil wide. But there are some rubbing issues. Not horrible, but they do rub a little bit in the front, but not bad enough where I wouldn't run them. The problem with these is because they're copies and they look like really nicely made copies. I mean, all of the side, everything looks really good. Even says Vex compound on it. But the problem is they're really firm rubber, and they do okay. They're not the worst. The other big issue is just the inserts here are really super soft. Let me turn this charger off. Yeah, so the bigger issue with these are just the inserts are really super soft, but I wanted to try a different tire anyway, maybe something that gives me a little bit more clearance, but is still kind of class 1. These are off Amazon as well, Shergoo, which is a pretty unfortunate name, but I'm sure if you guys have looked for RC parts on Amazon, you'll see Shergoo come up quite often. Really horrible name, but anyway, these have like a Patagonia inspired tread. They do look really nice. They're supposed to be 103 millimeters, but when I put these are the Endura class 1 silicone inserts in the blue, which is the, I guess, soft, not ultra soft. When I put these in here, it does stretch them out to about 106. So let me flip this around. You guys will see. They are a bit wider. Let's do a little side by side here. You can see they're a little bit wider than the KLRs. Well, that's kind of a bad view there, but yeah, and they're a little bit more roundy though, which is nice. So I didn't run them, but I tried just installing the Endura inserts in these KLRs, but you see all this ribbing in here, even on the sidewalls and on the top of the carcass here. They kind of fit really tight. You know, these inserts are almost a little too big. They're really like jammed in here because of that. And these tires, that's another reason I don't think these work very well. They're really stiff, even with nothing in them, no foam or whatever. But they have, it's the downside of being stiff and yet soft, I guess, too, is because with the stock foam inserts, you know, you can just mush these tires. They just completely, let me see if I can get a better shot here. Just the truck on its side, you can see like how folded over these tires are, and that's a huge issue when running this truck. Is you could see even here they stay almost shifted over. And now if we do the same thing on the Endura insert side, yeah, that's a good view there. Yeah, pretty much nothing, you know, so super stable. Again, these are the blue. They list these as being soft, and then they have a green, like super soft. I went with these, being that this truck is fairly heavy. There is a little bit of a break-in period with these, so these will soften up a tiny bit as you run them, and they kind of settle in with the tire, and the tire can kind of stretch and conform to the insert. So we'll see how these work out. They seem to be just about right, especially in the front right now. I think they're going to work out great. They fit in these tires so nicely. I mean, it's almost like they were like custom made. The width is perfect. The height of them is perfect, and they feel really good in here. So I have some pretty high hopes for these. Totally waterproof, so that's always a nice feature too. I do run this thing through some streams and water here and there. I did vent these using a little leather punch, just made 2 little holes. You can see one right there. And, you know, these stock RC4wd wheels are somewhat sealed. There are no vents in it, but I don't think they're perfectly watertight or airtight, but you definitely want to vent your tires. So let me get the rest of these installed. Oh, the other thing I'll mention, these inserts do add 55 grams per wheel. So good amount of weight down low to offset this heavy body, which is, I think, exactly what this truck needed. But yeah, it's gonna be an extra 220 grams down low on the axles. So that should be nice. Let me get the rest of these mounted up. I will say that these wheels are tricky. These are the stock RC four-wheel drive Steelies here. They're a little bit tricky to get everything mounted together because, of course, the hub on the back is separate and just trying to hold everything together. So I recommend get yourself some longer M2.5s, run those into everything, and you can get them started much easier. Then snug those up and eventually replace them. I replaced mine with these this nice like scale-looking hardware here, so it kind of looks like lugs. I really like the look of that. Overall, I really like the look of these tires. We'll see. Like I mentioned, the rubbing issue, I don't know is going to be any better because with these inserts, but I have a feeling if I put these inserts in the original KLRs, these would have expanded a little bit too. They just put a little more pressure on it, but we'll see how it works out. I don't think it's a big deal. It wasn't rubbing too bad initially. There's definitely some rubbing going on here though, but we'll run it and see. Hopefully these get some better traction than the KLRs did. And we'll go out and run it and see. It's the only way to find out. Let me get the rest of these mounted up and we'll go out and get some running video, do some testing, and we'll see the results. And, you know, I'll link everything down below. These tires and the inserts, everything is pretty cheap. I think these tires were like 20 bucks. The inserts are 20 bucks. So overall, pretty cheap experiment, and hopefully it works out well. Okay, so here we go. I do have a question for you guys. When you're choosing tires for a scale hard body RC, do you go straight for the best performing tire in that category? Like say a class 1, you go right for like a J Concept Tusk or a megalithic class 1 or whatever works best in your particular area? Or do you go more based on the looks or even trying to match the performance to the rest of the truck? Because that is one thing I noticed testing these tires on this truck is that I feel like, you know, on one hand, I do want the best performance from a tire that I can get. But at the same time, I feel like if I have a tire that performs extremely well, like a really super grippy, like competition level tire, I'm just going to end up getting this truck into situations that I probably shouldn't, you know, like where I'm going to be doing things that are a little bit too challenging for it, pushing it a little too hard, and this thing's going to take a big tumble down a steep hill, and I'm going to end up destroying this beautiful body. Because I see it happening already. At one point during this video, I took a tumble, and one of the rear little corner windows knocked out of the body on the back. So, and it's already getting a little bit beat up here and there. And I feel like having tires that kind of give me a little bit of a warning or kind of reach their limit before I put it in situations like that might be a good thing. And I almost do even enjoy the fact that it's a little more realistic to not have tires that grip that extremely well, because in real life, what would you be running on this? Like, this would be a kind of a rig that you would drive to the trails and then drive back home. You're not going to have this really extreme super capable off-road rock crawler tire that would just wear out super quick on the street. So I feel like it almost adds a little bit of realism having a tire that doesn't grip 100% as good as it could. And you could hear right there the sounds that the tire makes. You can tell right away. It's still a pretty firm rubber compound. Whenever you hear that kind of grating, knobby noise. But I feel like they did start to break in a little bit toward the end of this run, and they worked pretty much as well as the KLRs that I had on here worked. One thing I will say, that inserts are so much better than running just standard foams on this truck. The added sidewall stability, really a huge improvement in just the overall stability of the truck, and how much control, how much steering precision you have. It's just so much better than the foams that were in the stock KLR copies, and I would assume that the stock foams that came in these did not feel very good either. So super happy with those. I even feel like the added weight is very noticeable, especially going back and rewatching these while I'm editing. I could see the difference in just that added stability of having that extra weight down low. Really happy with that. I feel like I'm just going to run these for now. I don't really feel the need to run out and spend. That's the other thing too. You know, really like J Concepts, Proline, whatever, you're going to drop like $60 on these Class 1 tires. It's a lot of money. And again, yeah, it's going to be better performance, but it's still not a super high performing truck compared to like a pure rock crawler. And that's really not what my purpose is for building this truck. I just want to go out and have some really fun, you know, scale, trail driving experience. And I think that's what this offers right now. You can see right here, I was really trying to push it hard into that rock to test the sidewall support, and it worked out great. I did have one of the beads, I think it was actually that tire, the front left tire, one of the beads did pop out slightly, so I had to just disassemble a wheel, pop it back in. I made sure it was extra tight this time. Hopefully it's not going to be an issue. All of the other ones stayed in place fine. I did not have that issue with the KLRs, which I had run a couple of times, so not sure. I noticed these wheels don't really clamp so tight, you know, so not quite as much as like a different design of a bead lock. You know, these just use the 5 screws in the center to clamp everything together. It's probably not really the greatest. Here I am pushing the limits on this thing already, seeing what it can do, and luckily I was able to catch it. But that's what I'm talking about. You have super grippy tires. I don't know, I just feel like I'm going to be pushing this thing a little bit too hard. But and then situations like that, like they grip perfectly fine and just pulled it right up. So I don't know. It was odd. It was like certain times they didn't have the best grip, but then majority of the time they worked great. So maybe just condition specific. If it's a little bit of moss or something, I don't know. We'll see how these work in different weather conditions. It's definitely getting colder here. Beginning of October, you can see how many leaves we have down. Does make for a very scenic running video here, and then also just the ASMR of the crunchy leaves here. I always think is kind of cool, but it does get frustrating at times because they get caught up in the truck and start making all kinds of clicking noises and stuff. And then sooner rather than later, these trails are going to be so covered with leaves, it's going to be very difficult to even run this truck in this area. So we'll see. These are some mountain bike trails nearby me, so the guys do a good job of maintaining the trails. Hopefully they keep them relatively clean, and I can get out and run my crawlers and trail trucks in this area for the rest of the winter. But yeah, that's going to do it for this. I'm pretty happy with these tires for now. I think the rubbing noises you hear are actually the little body clips. I got to figure out a different solution. I have since mounted my battery up front, so I don't really intend on taking this body off and on very often, so I need to come up with a different solution for the clips. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next video. Later.